This is a Strategist episode 1890. My name is...
Stop everything, Zane!
Yeah.
There's no time!
Oh.
There's no time for the intro. We've got to talk instead about the fantastic live show that we're doing on November the 12th at a church, Knox United Church, starting at 7:30 unless you buy the VIP experience. It's not just a package, Zane. It's an experience.
You're just blowing your load all at the same time, Carter.
It's
just
all happening, brother.
Pace.
It's all happening.
Pace.
No.
What city?
Everybody
What
needs
city?
to know.
What city is it?
I need some basic
It's in
details.
Calgary.
Yes, Carter. What city?
Knox United Church.
November
Everybody
12th.
knows that.
What do you mean everyone knows that?
Everyone knows that.
If everyone knows that,
Okay,
why are you announcing it?
It starts at
fantastic.
7:30. If I show up at 7:30, I'm paying how much, Carter?
$30, which is like nothing. It's like free.
If I show up at 6:30, what am I paying and what am I getting?
$75.
That's a
You're
lot of
getting
money.
the VIP experience, which is catered, which is why it's so much money. Because we had
We're
to
catering it?
We're catering it.
Why are we catering it?
Well, there's a motif.
Which is what? Tell
It's kinda
people.
like a-
Don't shrug
like a
and
funeral.
hide the
I
motif.
don't think we're not telling people, are we?
Oh
Are we
yeah,
telling people?
it's
okay.
a funeral.
Yeah, it's a funeral. So you expect, refreshments at a funeral. Zane, you
Yeah,
have to go down into
do
the
you?
basement afterwards.
Coffee,
Do you?
Yes,
soft drinks.
of course.
Oh my God. Okay, let's take this back. Yes.
Plus, you have to have
we are
pickles.
indeed. This is not a joke. Let's start here. This is not a joke.
You know, it's when we say this is not a joke that we lose a lot of credibility.
November 12th, Knox United Church. Carter's booking. I will say he's deep into the Christians. He's got access
No, the
points.
Christians are deep into me.
That's okay. Fantastic. In Calgary,
It's a nice venue.
7:30
Yeah.
to 9:30. Carter, there's ultimately here's how you win over someone like me. Okay, for the other three brown listeners of this show, this is two shows in one. Okay,
Two.
You're getting two shows in one.
Two
Carter,
shows.
explain, Carter, how folks are getting two shows for the price of one, unless they want to pay for more and then get, I guess, food.
It's like food. It's like a third show because you get to spend time with us.
Okay, so
And we're
that's
gonna
the
be
VIP
hilarious.
experience. Okay.
The VIP experience also comes with a free Zane Velji for Leader sign,
Yeah.
signed by you.
Oh, is it signed by me?
Yeah,
This is all
you have
news to me.
You're going to be signing autographs.
Oh,
We've got a
fantastic.
little table. Yeah, it's right at the end of the reception line.
How many have
And
we
you're gonna
sold
be
so
si-
far of those?
How many have we sold?
Yeah, of those VIP experiences.
We have sold over 30% of our VIP experiences.
What does that mean in raw numbers?
It's about 30.
Okay, that's not bad. That's
Yeah,
more things
we
I've
sold-
signed. That'll be quite a few things for me to sign.
Well,
And it's an
if we sell the
evergreen lawn
100.
sign. Once again,
It's an evergreen. Yeah, it's.
If folks are not aware, I will be signing on behalf of Zane Velji for Leader.
Yeah.
I am the designated proxy for Zane Velji for Leader, who's a different person who is not me, who is a choice that everyone has every time there's an election. You can write in Zane Velji for Leader. And we're hoping to make a mark in every single election
These-
here on in.
So
Are
I need
spectacular
some
signs.
very basic information
Absolutely.
here. This is in Calgary.
Yeah, no, we
Calgary.
yes,
What
Alberta.
day again?
November the 12th.
Okay.
it's good. We're
Tickets
4
range
minutes
from
deep. Have we
$30
talked about a
to
URL?
$75.
We have not chatted, and there's a reason.
I was okay. Now we need to know how do I buy the
Okay,
tickets?
here we go. So this is okay. I think I'm stretching out for this, Carter.
We're both getting ready.
Okay, here we go.
You gotta get you ready.
We've got a few options, and ultimately we've got only one option. But I need to.
Start with where they shouldn't go.
Okay, so this is true. We can make a big list. Now, thestrategist.ca is our main website. You could go there,
Yeah.
and you'd expect that there'd be links to the live show. There won't be.
No thanks.
So don't go there.
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, thestrategistslive.ca. Unfortunately, as much as that makes sense, and we do own that site, it is forwarded to Flair Airlines. So that is actually a Flair Airlines a formal forward that we've had to do. Formal forward is, of course, the contractual term that they have stipulated. Now, you'd say, okay, drop the strategistlive.ca, strategistlive.com. Doesn't it sound easy?
It's easy.
It was easy because that was the URL for our previous live show at the Grand. Now, those tickets are not on sale, but you can still go to those websites. So as it relates for you to be going somewhere that you can go and get to, strategistlive.ca and .com, Carter, those are good websites.
Both work. They both work.
Now, as it relates to the more particular question of where they need to go in order to buy tickets for this show, Carter, what solution have you come up with? I assume you've ported one of these sites to the new URL. No. Or have you not
No.
done that? No, you have not done that. Okay.
Corey's the only one who retains the responsibility for those URLs
Okay.
and has been unable to provide us with either the information so that we could redirect them or the ability to redirect them himself. So we have created as a solution.
Oh, this is a solution.
Solution.
Seems like an overwrought solution that I think is about to come up.
Strategistlive.show
That show.
actually takes you to the ticket office, Show Pass ticket office. So you can buy your tickets right there. And I'll tell you something. You remember how we've been screwed by Arts Commons? We're getting screwed by the church too.
Wow.
They're taking
How's the church fucking us?
$1.50.
$1.50?
$1.50. It's way less than the $8.
Significant less fuckery than
Arts.
the Workland Center, as they now like
Yeah.
to be called in their official capacity.
Yeah, you know what? I'm less concerned about what they want. when they take $8 out of every ticket we sold.
They took a lot of our money. This is true, Shannon. Shannon, have you now? You are almost a proxy for the audience here. Have you gotten every piece of critical information? Who cares who's on stage? We haven't mentioned it. You're going to be there. Carter's going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Annalise is going to be there, of course.
Annalise is going to be there.
And Carter, have you talked
invited-
about the two parts of the show? Have you talked about any of this?
We invited Corey.
Okay,
I guess how much I've heard back.
Yeah.
Squat.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Corey's coming or not. Zero news from the guy. He's too
Corey
busy.
has a job.
This is not an important one from what I can
We
tell.
all have jobs, Shannon.
Not an important one from what
we
I can
all
tell.
do work. You know,
Talking trees.
some of us
with
more,
Corey
some
Hogan.
of us less. Yeah.
Fucking lame ass job, if you ask me. His
Right.
job is to
He's
get
the onceler out there.
his
He's the
job is to get
anti-Lorax.
fucked over on Thursday.
So the show is going to go like this, Zane.
Okay.
The
Oh,
show
please,
is
you
gonna
got a
go
show
like this.
flow.
Yeah.
Okay,
the
good.
first act of the show is going to be the Carter accountability episode.
Okay.
That's everybody's asking for it. People want it. They want me to be held to account.
Now let me
That's gonna
clear
be-
this up. This is the episode in which we spend time telling Stephen Carter something he's known the whole time, but has pretended he hasn't known, which is he's not as good as he thinks he is.
Oh, that's not true.
Okay.
That's interesting framing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Incorrect. Second act. You want to hear the second?
Is there
act?
an intermission? Tell people. Will they get to?
Yeah, there is an intermission.
They'll get to pee
And
in the
here's
church.
The thing.
Okay.
30 to 40% of our previous audiences have left at the intermission
it's a
thinking
joke.
that it's a joke.
Yes.
That there is, in fact, a second act, and there is a second act. Honestly, we're not joking with you. The second act.
Definitely more
is-
people are going to leave now.
I know, right? We have a credibility issue.
You have a credibility issue. I think people believe me.
No, I don't.
I think that's true.
Anyways, the second act is going to be a regular strategist podcast app or recording, and with special guests. We have a special guest coming for that recording that no one knows about. I don't even think I've told you to.
Oh, I don't even know.
I don't know.
I literally found out I'm signing lawn signs and that there are lawn signs with my name on them, which, by the way, is both terrifying and simultaneously long time coming.
Wait until you see them. They are spectacular. They're in my basement right now.
Yes. Okay. Shannon, have you, in the last 9 minutes
9
of
minutes.
promo, received all the critical information that you
I think
feel
I
like
have,
that
but
you would
it's been
need?
so long that it's hard for me to remember that the show is on November 12th in Calgary at Knox United Church. I go to
Strategistlive.ca, which is if they want to book a flight from Flair Airlines.
strategistlive.show. I show up at 7:30 if I want the $30 ticket. I show up at 6:30 if I want the $75
Well, you also have to
ticket.
pay. You have to
You
pay
have to
for the
pay in
tickets.
advance.
But
I
yes.
mean, you just can't show
That,
up.
well, that's why I,
mean,
went to
these fucking people won't show up.
strategistlive.show. I went to
Okay.
strategistlive.show. I
You
got my
completed a
tickets.
transaction. Okay. Yeah.
I completed a transaction.
good.
Those are my 2 times that I'm showing up with my ticket. I sit for 2 acts, one of which will be people telling Carter mean things, and then another one will have a special guest. There.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just checking. No one has bought tickets during that promo.
Okay. Well, and 10 minutes is actually a record for us. This usually takes a good 25. Corey adds to the
Corey
lengthening.
Corey drags it out.
Yeah,
and you know what?
he
I appreciate Shannon's summarization. It's
he
better than
probably sold more
ChatGPT.
tickets than the first 9 minutes.
It's better than ChatGPT. I'll tell you
That's
that.
good. Okay. You ready to do a show?
No, The last episode was just a promo. I feel like that's all
Yes,
they
I wasn't
want.
on that. I don't think you were either, Shannon. Was it just you, Carter?
I just did a promo.
Carter's a dog with a bone on this live show. I like it. Okay, let's
gonna happen.
let's do a
It's gonna
couple of
be
things.
big.
Let's talk about the budget coming up. Let's talk about Carney's retreat and Ford's retreat, quote unquote, on the Ford ad. But before that, let's do a check-in with Bill 2 in Alberta. Let's do a check-in on the same three groups that I asked you guys to do a strategy for last time we talked publicly about this. That would be the NDP. That would be the union / labor / the specific union of the ATA. And that would be the UCP. Where do you want to start? Shannon, I'll give you first sort of dibs in terms of which one of these three groups you want to tackle. And of course, we talked about the Gen Pop uprising and the civil society uprising, so to speak, so we can tag that one on. But amongst the first three, where do you want to start to kind of comment about how we feel, full 6 days later?
I think I'll start with the UCP because I'm really curious as to what Carter thinks about, and we'll probably go back and forth a little bit on the unions and the NDP. But on the UCP, we saw some footage last night, I think it was, of Rajan Sawhney doing a town hall that went horribly south, and people were yelling at her and so on.
I'm actually thinking that this is not productive at all.
And while it might not be as dramatic as that, the next little while is going to feel a little bit tender for the UCP. It's going to hurt a little. There's going to be a little bit of lactic acid buildup from what they did 6 weeks ago. It is going to hurt. This is political season. This is the season when people are out doing, you're going to the charity dinners on the weekends. You are doing all kinds of events at the legislature. Different groups end up there. So when you're in session, you're busy. This is the time of year that burns politicians out because you kind of like fall down dead at around December 21st. You're expected to be ready for Christmas, and you're absolutely not, just because you've been governor since basically mid-September. But this is the time that's really busy. And this is when they will meet with constituents and they'll run into people, and it will not be pleasant. Because people are ginned up, like the segment of the population that's pissed is really pissed. And it's going to be unpleasant for them. Of course, we've seen the Leger numbers where both the horse race and the leader favorabilities were not great for the UCP. And if it continues, they've got a real problem on their hands.
Carter, you suggested two things that are tied to one another in some way, which is Danielle Smith needs to be the principal spokesperson. And then we commented on our last episode in an extra that she was leaving the country. I do not believe she is back yet. Unless you guys... No. Okay, she's still out.
No, she's not back till next week.
Okay, as we record here on Sunday night. So she's not back yet. So spokesperson, issue number one that you had highlighted. You also gave them the strategic and tactical advantage here of potentially taking the W on this thing. Do you want to reassess or give me further analysis now that we have a week in the can?
I think Rajan Sawhney was targeted by a group of activists who attended a meeting. Instead of asking questions at the town hall, they targeted Rajan, and I think that that's okay. I think that that's a good tactic. I think that they should do those types of activities at MLA town halls, but I don't think that that necessarily represents the group view. The feedback I was getting from parents continues to be, "Oh, thank goodness my kid's back in school. Thank goodness my kid's back in school." And does it screw over the teachers? It may, but we don't like strikes. We don't like strikes. So people, just were happy and they did what they needed to do. And I still think that while there is a vocal minority that are pissed about this, I think it is a minority. I do not think that it is a majority of the population that's taking to the streets. And I walked past the school in my neighborhood the other day, and we love the teachers, all scrawled in chalk by one person, but that's it. That's all I'm seeing.
Shannon, what's your take here? Like, expanding this out from the UCP a bit, do you feel like the cake is baked here on kind of the trajectory of this thing, in the sense that does this get louder from here, or have we already peaked on the issue with Monday, Tuesday of last week in your mind?
I think it sets the stage for whatever the next thing is that pisses people off about the government.
So you think on this issue it may have peaked? Is that fair to say? Not to put words in your mouth, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I do, because I don't see anybody else out there um, buying at their way into the conversation at all. I don't see ads anymore from the ATA. I don't see them from the broader labor movement. I don't see a whole lot of content coming from, the opposition on this topic. So yeah, I do. And so in that sense, Carter is right, but I think where he may be wrong is the low level boil that they've now created in a whole bunch of people that were not necessarily previously politicized. And I would also put in that a lot of high school students who will be voting next time around and they did do their walkouts, and it did politicize kids that weren't necessarily going to be political, because, healthcare doesn't get them up in the morning because they're too young. Right. So I do think that there's something there. It is a stepping stone to other conversations, or whether it's separatism or other things that piss people off about the government. And I think that the UCP's numbers have gotten a bit soft. They always do during a strike. I said this from the very beginning, right? The employer always pays a price. That elongating that is a question that I don't think anybody's answered.
Carter, cake's baked?
I think the cake's relatively baked. I think that, the unions had a chance to throw some spices in the cake, and, they talked a good game. Gil McGowan, head of AFL, talked. There was lots of talking. Talking happened. Damn it. They talked. And that was it. And now we're a week later and nothing's happened, and I don't anticipate anything is going to happen. I was talking with a union member today who said they were expecting information at the end of last week on what was going to happen, and they didn't get anything. So, I fear that. I'm interested in the low boil, right? Like, I'm intrigued with that. I'm invested in that. I want that to be the case. I don't like this government with the passion of 1,000 suns, but I don't know. I think the general population wants their kids in school, and they don't care about the things that I think they should be caring about. And the labor movement didn't make this any bigger, didn't make the cake any better or any more tasty. That's for damn sure.
I'll get back to the notwithstanding clause, because that's where I wanted to go next. But Carter's brought up labor, Shannon. So let's talk about labor as group number 2. This is one of the 4 groups that we discussed. We talked about what labor needed to do. In advance of this, the AFL, Gil McGowan's kind of taken the mic on behalf of labor, and I guess rightfully so. In some ways, you folks might disagree, but he took the mic, said, be aware of a general strike. And to summarize, hopefully charitably, they said, okay, we met, we got together. This is on the heels of that legislation, and we are now going to begin the work to plan and prepare for a eventual potential general strike. And reaffirmed their sort of desire to have recall votes and to defeat the government. I think that's a pretty comprehensive. Yeah. There might be a few additional steps there, and to begin the work of organizing. So you might see ads and other things by unions that may not have traditionally done so and may have kind of signed and committed to as such. Where do you think that leaves the labor movement when there was a lot of folks that wanted that general strike, were prepared for that general strike, at least being told that that's what to expect? Do you think it's off the table here? And you even saw the government kind of taunt labor a bit in terms of, okay, if this is what you got, bring it.
Well, I don't know if that should have been the first go-to.
You
because
mean
it
like
is
like
so
like as a like
for labor to talk about as a strategy of like, okay, here's how we're going to fight back, because the bar is so high and it is so difficult to achieve that you're almost certainly not going to meet it, at least not in the short term. And general strike's only going to happen when people are like really feeling their feels and there's a high degree of emotionality, and then they walk. So I did have questions about setting that up as the goal. It felt like maybe setting things up for failure. And I think you saw the government kind of taunt them on that, because they know that too. They understand how high the stakes are for the fines and going to jail. I was a little confused. I just went and read the legislation that they passed because I wanted to be sure about this. There's no prohibition on speech for the ATA. They are locked into like an absolute bucket of shit collective agreement until 2028 by this legislation. With no ability to do judicial review or of the legislation. But there's nothing prohibiting their speech in that legislation. And I'm very confused as to why I haven't heard a lot from them or from the Federation of Labor just on the paid side to keep communicating their side or component unions or others. Maybe it's coming. But they knew that the notwithstanding clause was coming, and they also knew they were going to be legislated back. Because it was, widely understood. And I remember saying to you, Zane, if they are still out by the time we go into session, they will legislate them back. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah. We chatted
So
about
it's
this.
not like people didn't have, any kind of notice on like when to start like, hiring the creative people and booking their ads. So I'm very confused as to why I'm seeing just absolutely nothing. It's like nothing happened, right? 48 hours after they go back to work. And I don't understand why there's not, like if they are going to make it hurt for the government beyond, the usual dip in polls in a strike, that's going to take, striking while the iron's hot, and investing in, a paid strategy and also probably some sort of communication strategy. I haven't seen any of it.
And paired with some sort of legal strategy on top of that, which I don't think three of us would be the most aligned to or sort of most qualified to speak on. Carter?
No, but I haven't seen that either. And so that's been a little confusing.
I pitched Shannon's question to you. I do nothing other than pitch it to you, which is to say I have the same question in some ways, which is we know that this could be considered and probably is an existential moment in Alberta labor history. If the fight back does not include a general strike, okay, it doesn't include a general strike. What else does it include? And one reason it doesn't include it is because we're working towards it. Okay, what else should it include at this point? And kind of taking Shannon's question, extending it a bit and trying to make it a bit more strategic in the sense of, Carter, you had the ability to put into the bucket what it needs to look like. What does this look like if this is the existential threat right now? And you could make this about ATA as an association labor union, or you can make this about broader labor. Your choice.
Well, let's stick to broader labor and just kind of keep it there. I mean, the things that happened immediately after the legislating back. I mean, we saw a quick AFL meeting. We saw a quick Canadian Congress, I think it was.
Canadian Labour Congress. Yeah.
Meeting in Edmonton or in Calgary. I can't even remember which city. But that was the extent of it. And politics politics is a game of two sides, right? At least two sides. So if you make a move, Zane, I get to make a move. And I get to anticipate your next move. And my question for labor leaders is, when you went on strike, were you not anticipating being, legislated back and legislated into a contract? And why didn't you have your next move ready that day? Why didn't you have your next move? Like, it seemed to take everybody by surprise except Shannon Phillips and the listeners of the Strategist podcast.
I will tell you, just to fully admit, it did. The notwithstanding element took me by surprise. Legislating back did not. And I think, Shannon, you've suggested to me that the one was not possible without the other, at least or was it? See, this is we're getting into the legal.
It may or may not have been.
Correct.
We're all pretend lawyers here, but
Yeah.
I think this whole business of let's face it.
Materiality would have been
these people don't give a shit about the Constitution. So, from that sense, it was
I hear you.
entirely predictable.
Carter, you're on a roll. I don't want to interrupt you there, but I will add that
it didn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if the use of the notwithstanding should only amp up your response, only give you more strength, right?
With the unprecedented nature of it.
Right.
Agree.
You should have had an action plan that everybody agreed to, that everybody was going to take advantage of. And the fact that they didn't have an action plan kind of showed us that things weren't, they didn't anticipate the next move of the government. And now a week has passed, and a week in this type of political environment is forever, right? You may as well let a month pass. And the actions that need to be taken at this point, you may have lost this game now, right? you may not get the opportunity to go back and say, okay, we're now going to start something. Unless you are prepared to do a work to rule, unless you are prepared to do something that may face fines, you are in a position where it may not be wise for the ATA and other unions to jump on board of this thing. You have to make a decision that you are prepared for real shit to go down. And I don't think they are.
Well, okay, but talk to me. If Carter was designing the game plan for them for Monday morning, tomorrow, November 3rd, going forward, knowing he couldn't change the past, what would tomorrow morning look like? Would you say, okay, devote 10 million to an ad spend, or would you say, fuck that, the time for that is lost? Or yes, but you need to do something else dramatic. Like, I'm trying to get an understanding of your point that the window may be closing, but it's not closed. What would Carter design for a not closed window?
Well, I'd be making sure that people understand what teachers are valuable. I'd do a work to rule. I'd do a work to rule, and I'd buy a $10 million ad campaign to support my work to rule. And I'd ask every labor organization across the country to raise money for the inevitable fines. And if I'm shilling, I'd be getting ready to go to jail.
Yeah.
Because it is
Absolutely
imperative that you do something that is going to capture the attention of parents. And a work to rule it could take everything from rotating strikes to just simply, I think we talked last time about shutting down the basketball teams, right? You're not going to coach anymore. You're not going to assist with lunchrooms. You're not going to do prep outside of the classroom. That could be everything up to and including impacting students in the education that they're receiving needs to be on the table. Today,
I agree.
Today we're talking about sports. Next week, we're going to start curtailing English classes. We're going to focus entirely on social studies. Everything is going to be social studies for the next week, right? Everybody wants social studies. We're going to talk about, we had a young woman over here today who's in grade 9 and who's, supposed to be talking about the Constitution. And their teacher is pushed off talking about the notwithstanding clause in the Constitution because she doesn't want to bring bias into the classroom. And I just think that is, the wrong fucking way to go. Bring the fucking bias. Let's go. Time to go toe to toe with this government.
Shannon, you seem to agree with a lot of what Carter said here. Add on.
Well, I agree with the urgency of it because nothing else will communicate it to people. I mean, and I don't know if now is not the time, then I'm not sure when is. I know that teachers feel a great deal of stress on getting kids caught up. I happen to know that that's how they're feeling right now because, any kind of work to rule puts teachers in a degree of basically like moral distress, right? Because they are not then doing all of the extra work that they do to create the learning environment they do. Having said that, I don't know when else you would demonstrate to government that they have fucked around. There is a find out phase. And if they don't like it, they can go back into the House, amend that legislation, and put this into some kind of other process to get them out of this work to rule thing. To my mind, that's the way to call them on it. That and a $5 million ad spend until Danny comes home, right? Because she's still tooting around with the Emiratis while she should be here running a healthcare and education system.
Carter, you don't think this will happen? Do you think any version of this will happen? Do you think anything that both of you have laid out on the table or agreed with will happen?
I think we're seeing the belly of the labor movement, and we're supposed to scratch it.
So what can broader labor do if ATA is not going to do these moves? What would they don't have control over the ATA, but like the Federation and I know we're getting deep into labor politics, but when else, folks, right? In some ways, this is the existential moment. So let's talk about it. What can the broader movement, allied organization, labor congresses, what can they do in this moment, if anything? Shannon, do you want to take a stab at this first?
Well, the good news is that some of the financial pieces have been made so that unions can give a little bit, and there's more third-party advertising that can happen and that kind of thing, because they had some restrictions that have now been lifted. So I think obviously they should use them, and I think that they should be there on the legal strategy. But honestly, there's almost nothing that a labor central can do at this point. And if I were a Labour Central, I would be asking myself, how much more am I going to do, given that this organization, the ATA, does not pay dues into the Federation of Labour of the Canadian
This would be a
Labour
move for
Congress.
solidarity rather than defense of a paying dude member, so to speak. Is that fair enough?
Because
fair to
they're
say?
not affiliated to the House of Labour and never have been. And so, if they wanted that kind of solidarity, then their members and their local presidents and others should be going to their next executive council meetings and saying why we should benefit from the broader protections that being affiliated to the House of Labour brings us.
Carter, while I agree with what Shannon's saying for the most part, I do think there is obviously a very selfish aspect to all of this, which is if they can do this to the teachers, they can do this to anyone. I'm like, the downstream effects here are blindingly obvious. So for Labour to step in, even if it's a not due paying member, and there's a history there, and there's, I'm sure, a very complicated, interesting history that we can write a book about in terms of why, and Shannon and I have kind of scratched the surface in a previous episode around the ATA and their union side and their professional association side to get started on that. But Carter, this existential level threat is not just about the teachers, but any labor organization negotiation going forward. What can and should they do here? I know you've laid out your game plan for the teachers. What can Labor Central or a Labor Central organization like Shannon's mentioned do here?
Tell their members that this is coming for them next, right? Tell their members this is coming for you next. We need to get militant. We need to get ready. We need to get prepared, and then you need to put the chessboard on the table and start making your moves. Because you're going to, let's say you spend your AUPE or your the health sciences, whatever their acronym is.
Yes.
Sure, let's say that.
HSAA? Is that the one?
You're going to be the next ones on the front, right?
Okay.
United Nurses of Alberta have already signed their deal. You're the ones who are going to be facing this next, and you need to make sure that you're prepared so that when it happens, not if it happens, when it happens, you've got the game plan and the battle plan to actually do what the teachers should have done, which is to start, on day one, being militant and actually activating your membership, doing the wildcat strikes, doing the work to rules, doing all the pieces, bringing in the other labor organizations. This needs to happen now because the planning has to happen now because the moves are going to happen in the next. I think the unions are negotiating these things right now. I don't think that these things are that
AAP
far
has
off.
some long-term care workers in bargaining with AHS, and I saw a thing from the president the other day saying make sure that you sign up for your union identification number or your union online account, because this is how you'll get your strike pay if we end up going on strike. So that's where they are in readiness mode. HSAA has bargaining next week as well. We'll see what happens with them, but I think that where you'll see this more is at APE because they changed up their president. I think the membership is quite restive. They've been treated like absolute shit. These are vast majority of these workers are women. They are more recently arrived Canadians. They make garbage wages, and I can see where they are entirely impatient with the situation as it is facing them right now.
Okay, so Carter, I think there's a lot of people hearing this who are outraged, but have now been told that they're a minority, not a majority. Last week we said they needed to be in the majority, right? Like, I'm just trying to set the stage a bit. So let me just kind of like interject. So you said if the narrative next week is not, holy shit, what did they do, versus I want my kids back at school, it's a good sort of litmus test of saying whether you're in the minority or majority. A lot of people are realizing today, especially those listening to this podcast, I imagine, that they're outraged, but potentially in the minority of folks. They may disagree or agree, but that's your analysis right now.
Yeah.
You've also kind of laid out a plan of what needs to happen for Central Labor and then the ATA. And you've also given us your take, both of you have, on both of these things around what the UCP stands to lose and some of their mistakes, but also where they might be, quote unquote, winning here. Which kind of brings me to, what does civil society and what can they do right now? Relying on labor doesn't seem to be it. We'll talk about the NDP in a moment. But I wanted to talk about them because there's probably a lot of people listening to this, hearing maybe for the first time or kind of snapping into focus for the first time, something that I think both of you may agree that this movement may have peaked given the inputs we have seen right now. At least the movement on Bill 2 at this moment on the notwithstanding clause, to be clear. So, Carter, what role do people have right now, those listening to this podcast and others, if it's not going to be the ATA, the AFL, any of these institutions, if it's not going to be, and not to prejudge, the NDP, what is their role here right now?
Well, I
at
think
this
that
moment?
civil society should be doing what they did to Rajan Sani. I think that, the minority, the vocal minority is heard oftentimes by this UCP government because they do listen to the vocal minority. This would just be the opposite side of the vocal minority. I love them going to Sani's town hall and shouting her down, calling for a recall petition. Dimitrios Nicolaides has a recall petition against him in Calgary Bow. Sign it. Do what you need to do. I mean, forever Canada, this fucker. I don't give a shit. My prediction is that they'll get more than enough signatures in Calgary Bow.
This is the moment of the show where we play a trailer with heroic music espousing the greatness of Thomas Lukaszuk. Now, Haxam, can you please just create that song and interject it with Carter's prediction? This is, of course, the Thomas Lukaszuk celebration segment of the show.
From the prairies to the Rockies, his name rings loud and clear. Thomas Lukaszuk, a man the people cheer. With pen in hand and fire in his soul, he rallied the province, made unity the goal. Oh, and now the people rise again. Our goal, petition, they'll take it to the end. They'll organize to complete the deed. Even Stephen Carter thinks you'll succeed.
Carter, we're back.
I don't think we need that. I don't think we need that.
It sucks for you because it just happened. It just happened.
I'm just throwing it out there. I think what we need is we need to be realistic here and say that, obviously the Calgary Bow recall petition is going to happen. And, Nicolaides is going to be gone. But I mean,
I don't know if you're fucking around with us here on that particular one. Just to be clear,
of course I am.
Okay.
Why would I change my mind? 60%, although 60% of the people who voted is a much smaller number to get over than some of the earlier recall
thresholds. Yes.
Not in Calgary Bow. They had a high turnout there. But anyway.
Still, it's easier than 60% of the voters. But Bow is going to be, it's going to be tricky. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm expert at the predictions on these things. Number 2, call everybody, go to their town halls. I mean, it's the same thing. It's number 1 and number 2. Just make it happen. Those are my only things. I'm done.
Shannon, what else can people do? Like, Carter, I appreciate your advice, but it's almost like fucking do the stuff you're supposed to do. Like, do it and do it well. I guess. Like, you don't seem to have a lot of hope interjected behind your voice, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
We elect dictatorships, right? When you're elected to a majority government, you get to do whatever the fuck you want to until such time as you have to call another election.
Especially when you do this, when you introduce a piece of legislation in one day that is insulated from judicial review and you pass it within a few hours. You don't have any opportunity then for the public, as disconnected as they are right now, to be able to engage in the material, right? They've cut all of that off.
And it's all right, Shannon, but you don't hear any internal rumblings. Cyril Turton's really upset. He's not. He's not. He should be. He should be furious. He should be walking to the Premier's office and saying, I want to give back the $38,000 that I get for being a Minister of the Crown. But he's not going to. Children's Services Minister, and your teachers are getting screwed. Right? Now, he's not the Education Minister. These aren't his teachers. But the system works hand in hand. If we don't have education, if we don't have proper education, we're not putting out the kids that are going to be able to survive in today's society. I just don't understand where these people are. We had two people who stood on principle, whose names are escaping me right now.
Peter Guthrie
and Stevens.
Oh, you mean the two now,
yeah.
the PC Revival folks. Yeah.
The PC Revival guys. They stood on
and
principle.
all of the NDP, I would say, just to
I
give
don't
them
think.
credit,
I mean,
but-
those guys. Yeah, okay, they stood on.
But the
principle for this
NDP,
thing, but
who else is standing on principle? Is anybody else standing? So without the UCP being the dictatorship they are, with the NDP doing what it's doing, right? The NDP.
Well, okay,
Where
let's
the
talk
fuck
about
is
the
the
NDP.
NDP?
Well, you tell me. You say with a disgusting face, for those that are not watching this,
A disgusting face.
are disgusted. I mean, the face
Oh.
is disgusting, but
I
the
mean,
face, the disgusting face
fuck
is
you too,
disgusted.
Zane.
Sorry,
Jesus.
sorry, I'm
Rude.
just
Jesus.
sorry. Just to be clear, by God, just that the disgusting face that you hold is disgusted. Is that a good sentence? I think that's a
better.
proper.
I
I think
mean,
it's
you
a
put it
proper.
all, yeah, you brought it all together. I mean,
think
people
that's
people
good.
watching the video stream will be all confused. But,
Yeah. Oh no, they'll get it. They'll get it. You don't seem pleased.
I'm not pleased.
Why not?
What am I seeing?
What are you seeing? Tell me what you're seeing.
I'm
Tell me if you're seeing
seeing-
it algorithmically. Tell me if maybe that's the case, but tell me if you're just not liking the message, or
mean-
you're not liking the tone, or you're not liking the volume, or
I don't
what are
see any
things you are
volume.
liking?
I'm not seeing it. I'm not. I mean, I see little tidbits of Nenshi being outraged.
Okay.
That's interesting. Where's the? You couldn't filibuster this piece of legislation. Can you try and fuck with them in other ways? Can you? Where's your House leader? Where's your House leader standing up in the House or making it difficult on them? Trying to snap. Trick. Not everybody's in the House all the time. Well, let's put all the fucking NDP members in the House all the time. Let's make sure that everybody's got House duty for the next 3 weeks and force the UCP to have every one of their members in the House so that they don't lose their fucking government. You right? We're gonna just do some stuff. We're just gonna do some stuff. I don't see any stuff coming from the NDP.
Well, I'll let you
nothing.
respond. I'll let you get into this, Shannon. Not particularly respond unless you want to. But Carter, to be clear, you've talked about simply legislatively. What are you seeing messaging and
I see
communications?
virtually nothing messaging. I'm seeing. I mean, maybe my TikTok's all filled up with 4 non-blondes singing some song from the 1990s, and then Nicki Minaj coming in talking about motherfuckers. I don't know. I can't. Maybe it's my TikTok algorithm. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I'm not seeing it from the NDP.
Yes. Okay. Shannon, I'll let you get into your and I'll put a pin on not seeing it for the NDP because I've got a question for you there, Carter, again. But Shannon, what do you think for the New Democrats? We mentioned what they needed to do. You talked about leader-centric, Naheed focus, but then Carter, you also mentioned spread out the love, have a lot of people kind of address this topic, make it singular. They seem to have taken that particular approach. But Shannon, we're a week in, just slightly less than a week. What do you think?
there hasn't been a whole lot on this topic since they passed it, which, except for calling Danielle Smith a coward,
Which was weird.
I mean,
That seems to be the line. You're right. I've heard a few times. You don't like it? Neither of you seem to like it.
No.
I'm not in love with it.
Tell me why.
I just think
Danielle Smith is a tyrant. That I can get behind. Danielle Smith is dictatorial. I could get behind. Danielle Smith is a coward because what? She went away on an airplane. Like I don't follow it.
I think that we're better off usually when we're talking about people's priorities and whether they align with the voters or not. I felt like it was a bit too personalized, and I worry about that on the sort of personalizing on it rather than drawing it back to the issue. It makes it too Naheed versus Danielle, which I don't love. I would prefer that it's Danielle versus the voters, and him as an avatar.
Oh, interesting. Do you feel
for
like
people's interests?
I think
I
that's
really think that he's better off there. I think it's a bit of a clanger for me. Otherwise, it's a bit of an eye poker, right? I think there might be gender things happening there too.
That people could read
I
into?
don't know
Yeah, that's
what I
interesting.
don't like about it, but I'm not in love with it. I also think that, going to Saudi Arabia and UAE to, advocate for our oil interests, whatever bullshit patina she put on it, that's not really cowardly for a good chunk of the population. They think that she's, doing business for the province, which she's not. She's just basically figuring out how, she can make her money on the back end when she leaves politics. Let's all be clear what she's doing there. So I didn't love Coward. I don't think it fits with what actually happened. And that was kind of where the message stopped. Right. Ledge Friday comes on the Thursday. Everybody goes back to their ridings and they start back in on Monday. And I didn't see a lot of sustained. I am the worst focus group ever in terms of the algorithm because all of these people are my friends, obviously, and my so my feeds are not representative of what normal people, because I see everything that all the caucus does, right, and the the individual MLAs and the others. So.
But I think it's actually helpful to maybe combat Carter's sort of like, oh, if I see it, then it exists.
I see it all, right?
So
and
I think that's actually quite helpful in this
than
situation.
Normies, way more. And I also did not see what is something that the caucus is usually really good at, which is everybody doing the bill just passed. Here's what this means for you. Kind of a thing, right? Like either the next day,
38 versions of a similar message, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Right,
and we had done that in the past. It's one thing that you can do. Is it everything? No, but it's just one of those little, put a quarter in the machine sort of things that you do as a caucus. Because they all, or many of them anyway, have their own social media followings, and it's a good way to amplify or stand there with the leader and do it sometimes, right? Like there's all kinds of different variations on the theme
of this thing.
And fundraising wise, there were a couple of emails, so that's good. But it would seem to me that there's a bit more that could be done to amp up the urgency here.
Carter, I'll ask you the same question. And then I'll go back to something Shannon's put on the table, which I thought was a very fascinating point around the frame of, do the NDP want Naheed versus Danielle as the key sort of question, or do they want the voters versus Danielle? And I don't know, Shannon, if you meant that for this particular question, or if you meant that as perhaps the more overall frame of a referendum
on
versus
this
Danielle.
particular question.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's helpful to get, but I want to get Carter to weigh in on that in a second, though. Carter, same question to you. Window closed for the New Democrats? The same question I asked about the Labor. Or window closing and they can do stuff? And if so, what does the Stephen Carter designed campaign for the New Democrats look like for Monday, November 3rd?
I mean, if there's going to be any wildcat actions from the ATA, then the NDP have to go and stand with them and be with them. If the ATA does what I expect it's going to do, which is just kind of allow things to boil over here and disappear, that's not going to happen. The NDP can't fight this fight by themselves. The NDP need the catalytic moment, and the catalytic moment was has passed. We're going to go out on general strike. I mean, the unions and the NDP, the progressive side of the zone, if you will, has kind of fucked this up in my mind. There's the NDP don't have much going for it. The ATA doesn't have much going for it. I think that the next move on the chessboard is to wait for the next action, and hopefully they'll do it better.
Shannon, Carter also brings up a fascinating point, which is, do these folks all need each other, or can they all go on their own to generate enough? Obviously, optimally, Labor, ATA more specifically, the subset of Labor in this situation, the New Democrats, the Gen Pop would all kind of coalesce, and this would all be one big soup sort of thing. But the question I did have at the heart of it was, can the NDP go alone here if ATA and Labor and others don't propel it? Sort of thing?
I mean, because they have different interests, right? I mean, the NDP is talking to the Gen Pop, obviously, to progressives, to parents, to teachers, right? And people who work in education in a broad sense, and people who teach in education faculties, and people who, there's a broad sort of education community, right? I'm thinking here of my own constituency, where there's a big faculty of education. So if this sort of thing was happening, this was the sort of thing that I would be going and
doing stuff.
Talking to them. I would be doing stuff, right? But the NDP has a completely different constituency in many ways than Labor, right? Because Labor is there to get deals for its members. That is what they are hired to do. The New Democrats are there to show that they can stand up to the government, that the job that they were hired for in 2023, holding the government to account, is something that they are doing while demonstrating that they can also govern the place. and that they have the ideas and the competence and all of those kinds of things. So they have completely different assignments in that way, and they absolutely should go it alone. Do they make this the centerpiece? I think this is another proof point in we have an education and healthcare system that are falling apart because we have government with wrong priorities. And they're off doing whatever they are doing, catering to their extremist base, doing separatism nonsense, whatever. Meanwhile, you are getting a raw deal, you person whose insurance just went up. So that's the NDP's assignment, is to use this as another proof point.
Has the assignment changed, Carter, for this week from your advice, which is talk about the teachers and nothing else? Even if you might be admitting that, to your words, the moment is gone, or the moment is nearly gone, would you still encourage them that teachers for the next 7 days, or is it time to pivot?
I think that you can try it for the next 7 days, but if it doesn't, you got to watch it carefully, and if it doesn't click, then you got to pivot.
Shannon, what do you think?
Well, they also have an opportunity to do something on notwithstanding clause, right? Like WAB has done. So WAB Canoe has brought in a piece of legislation, Bill 50, that outlaws that says that, basically they have to bring it to the legislature and repeal that legislation if they ever want to use the notwithstanding clause or something, right?
Yeah, they've got some
still
sort of,
do it.
We're going to bring it to some type of judge who's going to tell us if they could use it, and if then we'll still use it. So people are poking holes.
So,
the
New Democrats could bring that in as some kind of private member's bill. I think they're doing it in Saskatchewan. There's some people who are agitating for the government of British Columbia to bring in similar legislation. So that is something that certainly the New Democrats can and should do, and chase the UCP MLAs around with it, along with why didn't you? How are you going to vote on the Forever Canadian question? It's just another way to do wedging in the House and embarrass the UCP to Carter's point about making the shoes pinch just a little bit for some of these guys.
Carter, I'm going to ask you the final question here before we move to over-under lightning for a slightly elongated version of it, if you guys have a bit of time.
We do nothing but have time.
Oh, fantastic.
When you do a 9-minute promo for your live show,
we have to have time. We have to have time. I think it was 10 minutes. If Shannon's summary wasn't there, it'd be 9 minutes, so I blame Shannon.
Yeah, way to go, Shannon.
Yeah, way to go with that pithy 1 minute.
Take us over
I accept
the
the blame.
Hey, Carter, Shannon's question. The Naheed versus Danielle frame, that seems to be kind of what New Democrats, frankly, I would even kind of suggest would be the overall frame. I'm not putting Shannon in this position saying that this is what the campaign shouldn't be about, but you made a really interesting point on this question where you kind of want it to be the voters versus Danielle. I know the campaign's a ways away, but back of napkin Stephen Carter thoughts on how the New Democrats should be even thinking about the broader frame versus Naheed versus Danielle, referendum on Danielle, those sort of things as they shape up for what could be, many speculating a spring election, and then if not a 27 election of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, Naheed standing up for me and Danielle standing up for her friends is more the framing I would go for.
Yeah.
So it's not Danielle versus Naheed. It's Naheed's on my side and Danielle's not. That's the framing that I would aim for. I think there's all kinds of evidence that Danielle Smith is not on your side. And she's not on your side on cost of living. Look at insurance, look at gas, look at, all the expenses that continue to go up. Hey, running a household in Alberta has never been more expensive. She's not on your side when it comes to education. Look at the teacher strike. Look at the classroom size. She's not on your side when it comes to when it comes to healthcare. She's not on your side when it comes to post-secondary education. She's just not on your side. And Naheed Nenshi is. Naheed Nenshi is. And that framing, I think, could work really well. And I think that it's set up over time rather than unfolded at the last minute. And I think that's something you have to always think about is if I do this framing, will it run out of legs? Will it actually work in the timeline that I have articulated?
We're going to leave that segment there, moving on to our over-under and our lightning round. Shannon Phillips, Stephen Carter. There's so many things that we couldn't get into a deep format on, but I want to start with this. And Shannon, let me start with you. The political upside, okay, this is going to be a bit of a word salad. The political upside on the notwithstanding clause. It has become a hot topic recently, obviously with Alberta. You now see conservative premiers across the country encouraging the feds to use it over the weekend on Friday with a Supreme Court ruling. You know, Doug Ford, Pierre Poilievre, Danielle Smith, the conservative premiers, and frankly, like leadership, if you can call it that. Overrated or underrated in terms of the political juice the notwithstanding clause could have in terms of advocating for its usage if you're conservatives, and then, you know, trying to what the NDP in Manitoba have done and what Naheed Nenshi has alluded to in Alberta, which is we'll never do it, what progressives are trying to do. What do you kind of make? Overrated or underrated, the notwithstanding clause as it relates to being a political football?
I think until very recently it was pretty underrated. But now we've seen that there may just be enough kind of far-right rage on any given topic to override the Constitution, and you feel like you're sticking it to the man when you're overriding when you're overriding our fundamental freedoms and taking away the court's ability to make decisions. That's what it feels like to me, is that we're in, you know, we're far past this land of conservatives who, you know, have respect for rule of law and defer to courts, or have any respect for our foundational documents or our fundamental liberties. So it feels to them like they're, you know, righting a wrong when they do this. That Supreme Court decision that prompted the fracas over the weekend is tremendously complicated. I was just looking into it this afternoon. But it's a pretty easy one to kind of say, oh, well, I'm going to, you know, stick it to the elites and use the notwithstanding clause. And I think
it's got such inflammatory terms in it too, right?
Exactly.
And it lends it to that. Carter, what do you think right now as like a political operator and as a strategist? Overrated or underrated, the notwithstanding clause as it relates to an issue? And I hate to slice and dice a core element of like our like liberty and freedoms in that way, but it is being driven on this partisan track right now, which is dangerous in its own right. But as a practitioner, what do you think? Overrated or underrated?
Oh boy, I guess it's underrated because we didn't anticipate any government grabbing onto it the way that Danielle Smith has. You know, all of a sudden, if you start using the notwithstanding clause in every piece of legislation,
and frankly, we are expecting it again in this session with the trans.
I mean, we could be seeing
it
in 4 pieces of legislation, you know, taking away people's rights is serious business. We didn't think any government would have the balls to do it like that, right? And this government does, and they're not going to be punished for it.
Nope.
Not going to get punished. So what does that tell us when you're Scott Moe, who's now saying, I like it. I like what's happening in Alberta. What does it say for the rest of the country? What does it say when progressives don't get the court case that they want? Right? When progressives, there's a ruling that all of a sudden a pipeline can go across British Columbia. And the progressive side of the table says, you know what? Let's use the notwithstanding clause. Mm-hmm. The notwithstanding clause will work in this situation. I mean, the conservatives are so fucking stupid. They only seem to think that things will work on their side, right? It works on the other side too, guys. I'll tell you, as many people are pissed off about the notwithstanding clause being used against teachers across the country, you watch when it gets used on a fucking pipeline, you morons.
And I feel like their strategic calculation, if I'm giving them a bit more charity, is that they, A, feel like only their side will use it because, B, the other side is too weak or meek or principled or morally aligned to the charter to use it. And in fact, on that very partisan train of thought, that is kind of what we are seeing, is that you're seeing the left say, we're going to abide by the charter, we're not going to use it. And the right saying, if this is a political trap, you're falling into it. So, you could see what bed they're making, Carter, the collective right in this country. Like, it's very clear what bed they're trying to make, which is we know both sides can use it, but only we have the, insert your word of choice here. I'd say moral indignity to use it.
These things always get turned around, right? We were all drifting towards liberalism. Do you remember? Do you remember the early 2000s? Oh my God, everything was
upward and to the right.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the tools and techniques and tactics that we were using for the progressive side got taken in and bastardized by the right.
You think the same? You would not be surprised that in 10 years, a more left-leaning government uses a notwithstanding clause to strike down. I'm just making a bunch of assumptions around where we're at as a country.
Pick a court issue, something that happens, right?
Yeah.
An indigenous group is ruled against in opposition to something, right? The notwithstanding clause is then used to support the indigenous group. I mean, obviously, it's a good use of the notwithstanding clause.
It's tough because the notwithstanding clause only applies to like essentially what comes down to our individual liberties. And so essentially like your fundamental freedoms, expression, association, and then, your democratic, and it doesn't apply to your democratic rights, but like your security of the person and privacy rights. So I could see it potentially, I mean, I'm just trying to do the mental work to figure out where on the progressive left would you ever use this. Religion is really the only category that I can see where it could come back on, or far-right extremist organizations.
And if it's religions, like welcome to Quebec them. In some ways, like welcome to rehashing of what Quebec's doing. Yeah. And there's a lot of progressive people, maybe not a lot, but there's people like me who are progressive and religious, and that's a very different podcast, but who frankly feel abandoned by the left as it relates to religion, because the left, frankly, has become a frankly atheist, agnostic sort of left. Like, to be clear,
exactly.
That is what we believe.
That's where I'm trying to go with this thing. Is I'm trying to think like where
secularist,
would a
I guess,
progressive government,
using Quebec terminology, sure.
Or on freedom of expression for like to override some stuff on what constitutes hate speech. Like we have a pretty good regime here in Canada, but as we've seen, there's been all kinds of innovations, if you will, on freedom of expression on hate speech. So I could see that, but I'm struggling to find any other instance where it would. But Carter is right that, I mean, progressive governments could decide, if things get super spicy on the right, that nope, we're outlawing these groups, these forms of association, these forms of dissemination of information. No, you can't access this. That absolutely could happen.
Carter, in or out on the Ford ad, and in or out on Carney asking Ford to pull it?
I'm in on the Ford ad. I am out on Carney pulling it.
Shannon?
Same.
Why? Who wants to go first? Shannon, you go first.
I think it became a mountain out of a molehill, A. B, I think that we have to create leverage. And Doug Ford has been the only person in this country, essentially, to create leverage, both with the electricity stuff and now with this. And we don't have any, or at least we've walked away from a lot of the leverage that we do have. And really what this shows is that there's a lack of coordination between the premiers and the prime minister and industries of various kinds. That's a real huge problem for the government of Canada. I think this shows something larger, but in the meantime, we just looked like a bunch of just like real weaklings with pulling it.
Carter, anything to add?
I would just say that if you're going to pull it, if you're going to demand that it get pulled, what are you getting from Trump? Because if you're going to do something like that, you better get something.
Well, yes, and you mean, and from a practitioner perspective, you mean you better get something and communicate what you're getting to the public?
Exactly. I got a new round of negotiations started. That's something that could work. But I demanded that we pull the ad, and nothing changed. Fuck you. Let's go.
Yeah.
Same as digital services tax, right? They pulled that. Nothing happened.
My take is very similar to you guys, which is I think this has actually opened up an issue for Carney, which is I think there's a good portion of this country still that doesn't give a fuck about where these trade negotiations are because we haven't been brought along, and would rather just have a moment of catharsis to be like, yeah, fuck you for a second. And even if that costs us, who gives a shit? Like, we haven't been brought along anyways. So, like...
Do you remember Elbows Up?
What the fuck do we know if that's real? Well, I think there's still a cohort of people who want to be elbows up.
We all bought into Elbows Up.
Yeah, for sure. We were up in elbows. And I think there's still a group of people like, are we not doing that anymore? And Doug Ford's like, I'm always fucking doing that. And I think there is still an appetite there. Now, it seems like those two can play well together, Ford and Carney, but we'll see for how long. Final question, Stephen Carter. We want to do a whole budget thing because we'll wait till the budget comes. There's just a lot of stuff related to the budget. And I think for me, the most interesting thing is, Stephen Carter, what are you looking for from this budget at top line that may or may not signal how Carney does in the weeks and the months ahead? And I'm not asking for one metric. It doesn't have to be a metric. It could be a story, a narrative, whatever. But Carney's honeymoon season, so to speak, let's just classify right now, in my words, not yours, so you don't have to agree, that he's still in it. The budget, to me, could be the inflection point. What are you looking for in said budget, big or small, that will indicate to you that he's going to continue on this ride or he's going to decelerate into orbit once again?
The budget is a communications device. Corey taught us that, right? Corey said this is all about communications. Well, here we go. I want to see communicated the 15% cuts and then what was put back in, right? Because Carney has committed a lot of money outside of the 15% cuts. But that 15% cut that happened right off the bat that Carney directed each of the departments to do, I want to see how that's communicated and how that is disseminated so that we can see the 15% cut and then what was put back in order to, make things actually work. I don't want to see, the big numbers. I want to see the cuts and how did those cuts actually get implemented. I'll be looking to see if that storyline continues because that storyline was really important. And I think it's one of the things that differentiates the Mark Carney government from the Justin Trudeau government.
Shannon, same question.
Well, I don't think those cuts are going to materialize. I think that's going to be one of the big things.
I'll bet
but
you nickel.
The thing I'm going to be looking for is the stuff that he does around young people.
Interesting.
We've got youth unemployment. We've got they made big promises around apprenticeships, skills, training, all of this stuff. Some people were critical of how he did the speech in front of the Ottawa people and didn't really just talked about sacrifice and not talked about young people.
Yeah.
By young people, I mean, I guess I'm getting old now. By young people, I mean like the 30s and under, right? Like not teenagers. I'm talking about people who are even in their late 20s, early 30s, who will never buy a house. But also the job market's gotten really shitty for folks in that cohort. And so there is some talk of things like a youth job guarantee, like the Starmer government is examining, stuff like that. I'm really curious where that goes. Like we already know in broad strokes that there's going to be just like an orgy of spending on defense and this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right? We're going to
that's
call
been
it
telegraphed.
investment, not spending. But some of these other things that could actually help them through a snap election and do shore up an important demographic for them. I'm going to be curious how far they go or if it's just like boutique programs and, resurrecting Katimavik or whatever.
That was a good program. Love that. Let's go back.
We are going to leave it there. That's a wrap on episode 1890 of The Strategist. We will see you live November 12th in Calgary. By the way, if you're not in Calgary, thestrategistlive.ca. That can get you a flight on Flair Airlines to Calgary. But before you do that, Carter, thestrategistlive.show. That's where they can get their tickets. My name is Zane Velchi. With me, as always, Stephen Carter, Shannon Phillips, and we shall see you next time.